Hello, everybody out there in the You Are Worthy Network. So good to be with you this Wednesday afternoon. I feel like it's been forever since we've been together, and it probably has been. I'd have to look, but I think it's been a week or 10 days since I actually have done an interview. I had plans to be out of town last weekend, and the ice snowstorm of 2026 canceled the event in Texas, and probably wisely so, from what I heard in Dallas. And then we got hit pretty hard here in Memphis too. We got 6, 8 inches, which I know you Midwesterners and Northerners are laughing at that. I'm fully aware, having lived in the Midwest for a few years. But it's a solid sheet of ice on top of it. And we don't have the running joke is we have one snowplow, and it's got maybe a two-cylinder engine that runs it. So we just don't have the equipment here, and our temperatures have been freezing cold. The last couple of days we've gotten over, I think we've been 35, 36 degrees. So hopefully it's slowly starting to melt. But that's part of the reason. But needless to say, I'm excited to be back with you. I'm excited to introduce you to our awesome guest this afternoon, and I'm going to read her bio here in just a second. But let me say this: Jodi doesn't even know this, but as you guys know, I promote the interviews a few days ahead of time, sometimes even much sooner, like I did with Jodi's. I think a couple of weeks ago, I started promoting it, and you guys love this lady. I mean, I've never seen so much interaction and so many people view a promotion. I think the last time I looked, over a third of this group, which is at 7,600 now, have laid eyes on her promotion, and several have liked it and commented on it. So no pressure, no pressure. I'm just kidding, but it's awesome to see you guys engage like that for sure. Let me tell you a little bit about Jodi through her bio, and then of course we'll dig into her life and her career. Jodi Davidson is a leadership coach, consultant, and facilitator known for her empathetic, engaging approach. She partners with leaders and teams to turn insight into meaningful action, creating environments where trust, belonging, and psychological safety can thrive. From the front line to the executive suite, Jodi designs learning and coaching experiences that build confidence, strengthen communication, and foster cohesive collaboration, helping individuals contribute more fully to strategy and results. After a long-standing executive career in culture and belonging, Jodi launched Leader Within LLC to help emerging and mid-level leaders gain clarity, confidence, and the skills to lead with authenticity. She is committed to making a difference, one conversation and one connection at a time. Jodi lives in Maryland with her husband of 35 years. Their 3 young adult children and 2 energetic Bernedoodles, excuse me, I'm messing it all up, who keep her company on her morning jogs, even in this cold weather, I'm sure. Jodi, it's so good to have you with us on the You Are Worthy Network. Welcome, welcome.
It's great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
Did you guys? I have a sister that lives in the Richmond, Virginia area, and it sounds like they got very similar to what we got here in Memphis that I was describing there. Did you guys dodge it, or did you get some of that mess too?
We got the mess. And, there's a lesson learned. I'll jump right in. My husband of 35 years just had a thing called an ablation, which is due to some congestive heart challenges. I don't want to say failure because that sounds so ominous. And AFib, which is an irregular heart rate. And he had surgery, like a procedure last Friday. So he's not able to help. And for all these years, I'm so spoiled by my husband. He would go out there and I would just stay in the house. And now it's my responsibility, I suppose, to do more shoveling. And 2 of my cars were on the street and 2 were in the driveway. I don't, I should I should just share. I'll acknowledge I don't have a garage to put the cars in. So the two cars, TMI, but there were two cars in the garage in the driveway. We got those out, but my car and my husband's car are in the street. And the snowplows, they weren't very gentle and kind with us. Then I waited because I was so entrenched in work this week. This morning I went out to say, okay, let me get those cars out and the ice. We have to hire somebody's coming like within the hour to chop us out so I can get my car back.
Oh no, my goodness.
So we didn't dodge it, not at all.
Not at all. Wow. Yeah, that so reminds me when we were living in central Illinois. I'm not a, well, as I've gotten older, I'm not a fan of the snow. It's beautiful coming down. I admire it, but you're giving me another example of why I don't like it. It's like when you're ready to start getting free up and quit going stir crazy, you have to go through all this stuff. But one of the things I loved about central Illinois was 4:30 in the morning, you could hear the snowplows come through the neighborhood. And I'd go back to bed, but I knew here, oh, it's fine to go do whatever I need to do because if they're in the neighborhood, the main roads are clear. So I always did appreciate that fact for sure. And funny story. So I went to let my dogs out, whatever day it was after because we got it 2 days in a row. So I think this was either Sunday or Monday morning. I went to let my dogs out the back door. Snowed in. I've never experienced that before. The door wouldn't even move, and it was mostly ice. Took them back to my bedroom and raised up the window, and we're on the first floor, and they jumped out the window and did what they had to do, let them back in, and then later on got the snow removed from the back door. But
Can you
you do
tell
what
me
you.
of the corgis that you have? Did I remember that? Or what kind of dogs do you have?
Oh, they're all 3 months.
Mutts. Okay.
They're
I
all
don't know
three
why I thought they
months.
were corgis. Somebody else must have corgis.
Two of them are German Shepherd in
Oh,
part.
God.
But yeah, they're great dogs. Anyway, um, so okay, you're in the Maryland area. Is your husband doing well?
We are taking it a day at a time, and we know that he's going to be fine. His heart is ticking much better. And there were a few things that we're just tending to, but he is, I call him my caveman. He's all about powerlifting and just being a manly man. And so he's not going to let this drag him down for too long. That I know.
I appreciate that about him. I am missing my gym dearly. They were already going to be closed Monday and Tuesday for some remodeling, and I know they've been closed probably anyway because of the weather. But I'm chomping at the bit to get back in there. So I appreciate that about him for sure. So do you have tell us a little more about your family? Are they all in the Maryland area or are they all spread out all over the place?
So this is a fun story to share. My children are 24, 26, and 28. My oldest is a young man, and then my girls, young women, are the babies, yeah, middle and younger. And Jesse enlisted in the Navy about 2 years ago. He went to A school and C school in Florida and wound up meeting this woman back in October of last year. Crystal is her name, Jesse is my son, and they met and fell in love. And 2.5 months later, so January of last year, this time a few weeks ago would have been a full year. They celebrated their 1 year anniversary. They got married. They live in Washington State. That's where Jesse's stationed. He's going to be deployed in a few months for about 6 months. And I am so proud of him and what he is accomplishing. Like he's truly launched outside of, I'm still paying for his phone bill, but everything else, he's on his own. And I'm elated about that.
I know you are.
Yes.
You should be proud.
Yeah.
Although Washington is a long way away from
It's
Maryland.
far, it's far away. But we're gonna figure out where we'll all reside when I want warmer weather. Speaking of the weather, My middle kiddo is in human resources, so Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. She followed in my tracks, and we're looking forward to at some point. I'm declaring this. We keep talking about doing a podcast that's going to be called Dishing with the Davidsons. And at first it was like, oh, it's going to be about up-leveling humanity. And she was like, Mom, that is just too serious. And so we're probably going to be doing something a little snarkier about generation gap stuff and just have some levity and fun with it. So that's my Carly. I call her Car. And then my youngest, Gabby, is 24. She had some challenges. I'm going to be very transparent here. She had a beloved that she was going to marry, and sadly, he passed away in a motorcycle
Mm,
accident a couple of years ago.
mm,
And she's done a lot of work to get to the other side of that and found a new love. And this past week, she went back to school and she's going to become a nurse, which is something that I'm really proud of her for. And one of the things that I think is an important part of my story is while my mom doesn't live with me, I am her primary caregiver. She lives in an assisted living facility, but Gabby is spending so much time with her and being in that environment. She wants to do geriatric nursing, and we need that. We need to support the elders, and I'm not sure that we do enough of that to the extent that we might want to, or to follow some other cultures that are more connected with generation across generations.
there's so much good in that, right? I mean, all your kids are doing well. I love how your youngest has battled back and worked through all the hard stuff, going for a nursing degree. I mean, it's all so the podcast idea is so good. Um, and and I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. Like, I really respect you. Um, Jodi and I were setting up a discovery call before doing this interview a few weeks back, and we had it on the books. And she had to reschedule because her mom was having a difficult day, and that happens with when somebody's struggling with dementia. And totally understood, totally no problem at all. But she keeps the priority, and I have high respect for that. And it's enhanced even more in my life right now because my aunt, who has been like my mom passed away. It'll be 20 years ago this August. My aunt's been like my mom the last 20 years, and she has, mm, well, she was diagnosed with dementia maybe a year ago or so. She lives about 6, 7 hours away, and I saw her this summer with her son and his family. And then, we would talk every 3 or 4 weeks or so. Always good conversations. I noticed the decline a little bit, and then suddenly I couldn't get her anymore. And of course, I texted her son, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "We," and I knew he was shopping nursing homes with care on dementia from afar, but without going into details, there was some situations that caused that whole process to accelerate, and he had to put her in there, and she's just not using the phone anymore. And it's like it was a loss. It's so not about me. I'm just giving you my perspective. It was such a loss for me because now I want to still talk to her and I can't. And he's very kind. He's like, even yesterday, it didn't work out, but he was like, I'm going to be there around this time. We can FaceTime you in. I know she would love it. I still show her when you text her on her phone. But it's a big adjustment. And you're much closer, obviously, to your mom. And I just have high respect for how you're dealing with that. So just that
You
was a
know,
side note.
before we transition from the side note, I have a side note to the side note. My mom was struggling with her smartphone. She had a flip phone. It was time to transition. We tried a smartphone and just no retention for that. And with her decline, I was thinking in my mind, what the heck are we going to do? And I found this phone that some of your listeners might benefit from, Steve. It's called the Raz phone, Raz. memory phone. And basically, it's tied to an app that's on my phone. All she has to do is press, like, there are different headshots, bubbles with my face and my husband's and my daughter's and my sister's, etc. And she touches the face and it dials. There's more to the story though. And then all she has to do is it says hang up. The other part that I think is really important, it's twofold for me. One is that I can implement quiet hours. So her friends were getting calls. She has like lost her time orientation, and she would call people in sometimes crazy hours. So I set it
Mm.
up that from 9 p.m. Eastern to 6 a.m. Eastern, she cannot call anybody but me and my husband. And the other thing is, it tells me when her battery has gone low. So I can call her or the nurse's station and ask them to make sure that her phone gets plugged in. Because once it's out of juice, it's over. But the Raz phone, highly recommend.
Ron's memory phone.
Yeah, RAZ.
I'm checking it out. Thank you for that.
Who knew that we were going to talk about that?
You just never know, right? That's a part of going live and unscripted. You just never know. That's why I love it. You just never know what's going to be brought up. So let's go back in time a little bit. You know, the Cher song comes ringing through my ears if I could turn back time, right? Let's take
Sing it
you
to
back.
me.
You don't want to do that. I tell my congregation all the time, you will pay me not to sing. So yes.
But you can preach.
Uh, well, here and there. Um, let's go back to 18, 19-year-old Jodi. What did you want to do in life? Young lady, the world is hers, dreams are big. What did you want to do?
So I think a really important part of my story is that my little brother, Ronald, he's 4 years younger than me, has autism and he's nonverbal. And that shaped my life dramatically on so many levels. And I think the care and empathy and desire to acknowledge the worthiness in every single human being is in my bones and in my heart because of Ronald. He changed my life and my trajectory. So I was in that graduating high school, not knowing what I was going to do with my life, a little or a lot rebellious at that stage. And I decided that I was going to become a speech pathologist because I was going to quote unquote cure Ronald. And I
Mm,
don't know if we talk about this when we were together for our discovery call. I can't recall. Um, and I'll just continue on with a story that I was pretty good at it because I had the exposure with my brother and volunteered at special ed camps and did the Special Olympics thing. Like I was just exposed, right? And I got the bachelor's degree, requires a master's degree. I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I had to thank my parents for the privilege of them supporting me through getting the bachelor's degree. And I just spent 4 years of tuition, and I'm not going to. The lesson there is it is okay to pivot. I want to tell the young listeners that it's really okay to make changes in our life. And the communication skills that I gained through speech pathology have carried me. But here's the kicker. So now I'm in my early 20s, got the bachelor's degree and realized didn't want to do the thing. And I also realized that my pursuing that was because I was trying to, quote, cure someone that did not need to be fixed. He was
yeah.
whole and good as he is, just as he is, even though society might say that he doesn't have that high functioning way about him. I know that he is brilliant, and I am not the one that is going to, quote, cure or fix. So I went on my merry way and decided, fast forward, that I was going to proceed with a career in human resources, helping profession, right? Sometimes not. We can talk about that a little bit. And when I realized that I was on my own path, I was not going to be a martyr for the sake of my brother, that's when I came into full acceptance and realized that I am not there for that. I am here to hold space for people so that they can excel and be their best selves. And like the back of your wall and your whole mantle is about worthiness. And I am so down with that. I think that's why we get along so well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that you shared that. Yes, we did talk about Ronald just a little bit when we had our discovery call. And even though obviously you pivoted, I love that you wanted a champion for him. I got to share this story, and certainly didn't see this coming either. Again, another reason got to love going live. So years and years ago, as God was humbling me after a very very successful career in corporate America, um, I was in between jobs, and I eventually landed a job with a nonprofit working with people with disabilities. And I did a certain job with them for a couple of years, and then they matched me with something more to my skill set. It generated revenue for the agency, but there was a non-glamorous side to the job. Was driving around in a box truck with two highly functioning individuals, and one of them had autism, and he didn't talk a lot. I mean, he was verbal, but he chose not to talk a lot, but he was brilliant. And I remember the paperwork that I was handed to do this route. We would pick up recyclables from corporations all throughout the county. So this huge route through this big affluent county. And I was struggling with where all the stops were because it wasn't well documented. And I remember oh my gosh. I remember we got back to the office after the first day, and they're chuckling at each other. They're just dying laughing. And we had a great time listening to the radio. We worked hard, we played hard. And this went on for 3 or 4 days. And then, of course, I started to figure out the route. And I'm like, you guys knew. You guys saw me pass the business, didn't you? So, yeah, they just died laughing at each other. And I was like, these guys just, they were brilliant, but they weren't going to tell me all the tricks. I was going to have to learn it the hard way. So I always remember that.
Oh, these are the memories that we can cherish and learn and grow from too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so so you pivoted, and then you did speech pathology for a little while, and then what came next?
So I got the bachelor's degree, didn't get the master's, still wanted to move out of the parental unit's house because I was in my early 20s and felt that there was a need to be independent. So because of Ronald, I was hired to be a provisional special education teacher in Baltimore City because there was a shortage of special ed teachers. And I lasted a year in that job, again realizing that I did it for the wrong reason, but I still can remember the students, the adolescents. It was a middle school. And there was Clarence who could sing, and Tony who, if you went over to the wall where there was a map of all of Baltimore, and you could say, "Where is such and such street?" And he would immediately point to where the street was. And then there was Wantia. Like I remember all of these young people, and I wonder, where are they today?
Hmm.
I lasted for a year in that, and then I did a couple of odd jobs, kind of like you. I sold copiers for a little bit, and I worked in a personnel, I'm dating myself, placement agency.
Uh,
And I was able to do the matching of candidates, but I couldn't sell a job order for the life of me. So 6 months later, I got fired because I saw myself more on the inside of an organization rather than selling these placement services. So one thing led to another. And after that, again, this is really a walk down memory lane. Back in the day, there were Rolodexes, and that was where on each little card in this file box thing, you would write people's contact information by hand. And
Yep.
I decided that I was going to cold call Chamber of Commerce directory. And I would also use this Rolodex. And for some reason, I decided to go from the letter Z back to the letter A. The very last card, this is divine, right? Last card, almost didn't call because I couldn't remember this point of contact. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't call. I don't know that. I decided to, why not? It's the last card in this file box, the Rolodex. Called and I asked, do you have an entry level personnel job position, assistant role? And the answer was, as a matter of fact, we do. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, I was hired for my very first job in HR and realized a degree in speech pathology was not going to do me justice in a highly competitive type of role, like trying to climb the ladder in HR. So I proceeded to get my master's degree. And at that point, I just kept climbing the ladder and took a couple of classes at a time. And then at some point along the way, I think I was allowed 7 years to get the master's degree. And I was like a turtle, slow but steady. And I took a little break because I had switched jobs. I was like, I'm in a learning curve. I'm going to delay my going back. And I started having nightmares that I was never going to finish this damn master's degree. And so that's what triggered my going back for those final three classes and taking that comprehensive final exam and getting that master's degree, which really I think helped me to demonstrate that I was able to stick to it, so to speak.
Okay, that makes total sense. So, and maybe I'm fast forwarding a little bit here, but at what point did you take the leap into entrepreneur waters?
That was very, very recent. So I
Okay.
wound up planting myself in an organization that I'm very grateful for because I was able to raise my kids while having an extreme career. And I'm extremely, speaking of extreme, grateful for my husband, who was quite the Mr. Mom while I was out there traveling and doing, I think, some really good work in the space of HR and then transitioned into the space of culture, inclusion, and belonging for many years. And there was a riff in the organization back in this past springtime. And so, in earnest, it was in the summertime, Steve, that I launched Leader Within. So, I am in the nascent stages of becoming an entrepreneur. And I was talking to a woman who heads up an organization. I was at a conference and I had the opportunity for a breakout session speaking opportunity. And we chatted yet just yesterday to get more acquainted. And I was sharing a story with her that there was a question for the audience. Raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur. And it was the first time because I was such a corporate gal, and that question arose, came forward to the audience, and I raised my hand and I felt it in my bones that I was doing the right thing. And I'm growing. I'm expanding, one step at a time, shall we say. And I'm also engaging in some professional development to just continue to sharpen my skill set while I am fully launched. And when I was new in this transition, I was feeling compelled to talk a lot about the loss of the job and that I was laid off and all these things. And then at some point, I realized I am so happy talking about the current state, the grieving process that one has to go through. I've done the work. And I am so about leader within, which I've called leader within because we can have all the good conditions or systemically doing all the right stuff, but if we don't take good care of ourselves from the inside out, none of that is going to matter. And it goes back to, Steve, you know where I'm going with this. It goes back to my sense of leader within is very much aligned with your sense of you are worthy. So my whole mantle is about helping to affirm folks so that they can do that inner work where they feel confident, where they feel grounded, where they know that they deserve to be their best and highest self with a capital S. And I am so present to do that work with individuals, with leaders, and with teams.
I'm so glad you clarified that. I was thinking about what to ask you next about is this for just leaders, and you just clarified that it's much broader than that. Um, so tell us a little bit, give us a little sneak peek behind the curtain at the leader within. Are you able to tell us how specifically you help folks?
Sure. So I will share an example. I'm working with a regional custodial company in New Jersey, and they are committed to creating a great place to work. So the first phase of, I love this term, land and expand that I heard recently. So I think I've ingratiated myself. I've adopted the company, and they might have adopted me a little bit too. And so it started with some listening sessions, getting acquainted with senior leadership, speaking in maybe call it focus groups. I like to call them listening sessions for people to really express themselves and what was on their mind and heart, and to do so in a safe way. And that followed by a leadership team meeting where I was able to bucket what the concerns were into themes for there to be some self-awareness about how are we contributing or not to what those concerns or the gaps are. And then there was a team meeting where we brainstormed. What is it that you really want to create? And then they were doing prioritization voting and all of the things that would get us to a place where we were then able to launch a task force. And these are folks mid-level, haven't had the opportunity to be fully empowered the way they currently are as this small but mighty task force. And my ability to hold space for them to feel more confident in their skin about what they're contributing. And very soon they're going to be presenting to senior leadership a proposal with their recommendations, followed by an invitation to present at a town hall once the plan is firmed up and there's alignment. So shepherding the task force, and next I'll be doing some coaching with some mid-level managers there. I think it's important to note I have a leadership coaching certification from Georgetown, and I'm perfectly comfortable with the C-level, but it's those, as you mentioned with the bio, emerging and mid-level professionals that with just a little bit of, I believe in you, it's your turn to believe in yourself. Let's work on that together. That's where I get the juice.
Yeah, that's so important, the work you're doing. High respect for that. Um, I'm trying to discern even in fluid right here. So it's so needed. I'll tell you this, that I've recently joined a collaboration where we're going to be working with high achiever leaders. I mean, they've achieved a lot, but there's still something missing. And so there's definitely some synergy with what you're doing and what this group's going to be doing that I'm aligned with. It's so important, the work you're doing. I'm interested because you have achieved success at various levels, from from your bachelor's to your master's to HR to different different career opportunities you've had, and of course now as an entrepreneur. And I even had this image when you said, when they ask you to raise your hand if an entrepreneur, it'd be tempting to do one of these. But you were like, oh, I am one.
Yes, I'm an entrepreneur, like have self-identification and um, kind of like remapping how we see ourselves in the world and how expansive and I'll say courageous. Um, I got a message from God when I was informed about my layoff. And the message during that conversation was, "You are now free." And I knew, Steve, within 24 hours that I was going to be launching a coaching and consulting practice. I mentioned the podcast. There's a book that I'm in the process of ideating and writing as well. There's a bit of
Let's go.
little bit of a pivot and how that's going to shape up. Um, and what I'm learning is there's an iterative process that what I think is going to happen and then ultimately how it shapes up, I am okay with the kind of shifting gears a bit. It reminds me years ago, mentoring is one of my favorite contributions, I would say. I consider myself a thought leader, and that's my legacy work in corporate, where I launched and created, deployed mentoring programs, a lot of different kinds. One had a 15-year run, 15 different cohorts. The investment continued because the efficacy of the program was demonstrating retention promotions that were higher level than the general population. Um, and what was I just saying about the mentoring? Oh, no, I'm blanking out. That happens to me every now and again. Shiny penny.
It's okay. We were going somewhere with this, and what I want to get at, because you were talking about your emotions when you were let go. What I want to ask you is, can you tell us about a time in your life where you didn't feel worthy of love, respect, and success? And before you answer, it would be from an outsider perspective, you may be tempted to think it was when you were let go of that job, but it doesn't sound like that was the situation. So can you tell
Oh.
us about another time?
Yeah, I think what's fair to know is that I have struggled with my own confidence over the years. And just as I said that Ronald shaped who I am, Ronald also created a bit of a dysfunctional family circumstance because it was difficult to bring friends to my family home because Ronald was Ronald. And so in those younger days, when I think a lot of adolescents struggle anyway, that was a bit of a additional layer of who am I in this world and not necessarily feeling like I fit in. And I wasn't extremely athletic. And back in the day, there was usually somebody who was really athletic that was the team captain and gym, and they would select who was on their team, and I was always the last
Hmm.
person that was selected. I'm like back in the day, right? And but
Yep.
I still remember that, like the imprint of those kinds of experiences and how that carries into adulthood is something that's really important. Earlier today, I'm going to switch around for a moment. I do some contract coaching for ADHD with the company. I'll give a plug to Ryan Mayer Coaching. And Ryan and I met. He did a keynote for this for the mentor back to the mentoring, right? I don't remember where I was going with that, but he did a keynote speech. And when I got laid off, I called him and asked, "Hey, I'm not sure if I'm neurodivergent. I might be, but could you use a coach?" And he just acknowledged that I should be present with his clients. This afternoon, a couple hours ago, I did a piece on self-compassion for a community call. And there's research that's talking about when youth, when young people up to adolescence practice self-compassion, the research says the trajectory for that makes higher functioning adults, you know? And so I want to
Mhm.
bring that forward because what are we doing as parents? Are we creating generational trauma, or are we healing ourselves so that we can raise our children in a way that where they feel affirmed and where we teach them the tools of worthiness, and then they can then carry it into their own adulthood? Because we know that the Gen Z population, and what is it, Gen Alpha that follows, it's an extremely anxious and depressed demographic. And what it
Right.
is, I'm off on a little tangent here, but what we do to support our youth and help them in this challenging time, I think it's our responsibility to do that too.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I think I saw something about you joining his team, and I'm excited for you. Congratulations for sure.
I'm learning so much. Even the extent of am I neurodivergent myself? Do I have ADHD? Just like the shiny penny, and we were talking and I got sidetracked. I can have a million things open on my laptop by the end of the day. Somehow I pull it all together at the end, but you know, sometimes it's a little bit messy in the process.
Um, I totally can relate as I look at about 18 tabs open on my computer right now. Um, so tell us, and I've got a question that I can't wait to hear the answer to here in just a second, but could you tell the viewers where they could find you on social media? We'll include that in the show notes after, but I'd love for you to
Sure.
tell them where they can find you.
So my website is www.leaderwithin.net. My email is jody@leaderwithin.net. And I'm active on Facebook. We can find me in the You Are Worthy network.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn as well. I think I need to dabble in some of the other social platforms, but I'd rather pick a couple and try to do it well.
Yeah, yeah. I think you said the key. Do it well. I find most people can't do more than two well, but there's always an exception. So I'm curious. Anything right around the corner coming down the pike? Maybe you can't tell us all of it yet, but maybe give us a sneak peek into something exciting coming.
I don't mind sharing transparently because I'm so excited. And this is the first time that I'm going public with what is emerging. So and I won't share the whole backstory, that's to come. I'm in the process of trademarking what's called Kintsugi Connected Leader. And Kintsugi is the Japanese art form where it's taking broken pieces of pottery and putting it back together and repairing it with gold. And what I realized is that this is my life's story, that when I cracked myself wide open for whatever reason, the twists and turns of life, and then found a way to bring it back together. The transformation that has occurred on the other side, so powerful, Steve. And so the framework is about releasing what no longer serves while honoring the strengths that exist. So we're not throwing the baby away with the, what is it? Throwing the baby away with the bathwater.
That's
I
one.
think that's what we say. It's not about that, but it is about acknowledging the fractures that occur in our life. And instead of creating a diminishing sense of I made a mistake or something happened and it was a really tough time. All of those fractures are the opportunity to put it back together in a more experienced and perhaps loving way. So the gold that brings it back together, that's the repair phase. And then the third phase is renewal, which makes the transformation possible because the habits become sticky and we continue to practice. And something that I think is super important that I've said to colleagues for a number of years now, I didn't create this, but I think it's really important from a recovering workaholic perfectionist to say out loud for everyone to hear that practice makes progress, not perfection. And I think we're so hard on ourselves as human beings. And earlier today, I brought this up, so I'll bring it up again. Making the distinction between being a human being and a human doing.
Doing.
The way society is all about task orientation and transactions. If in its place, and I bet you preach about this on Sundays, if in its place we honor that we are the human beings that are really a spiritual being in human form, is how I interpret it, and how we can affirm and love ourselves through this blessing that is the life that we are living. And just to do our very best every single day and fill our cups so we can make a difference for ourselves and also to then be a reciprocal agape love. We bring that unconditional care and love for others. And if we've done that, I believe that we have lived a good life.
Yeah, that's vital. That is vital. I got to tell you. So as I listen to you explain this new, what would you call it? It's not a product.
It's a
It's it's
framework.
it's a frame. Okay, framework. Um, it's gold, but more than the framework being gold, your heart is gold. And spending time with you, now I know why there was so much interest when I promoted you, because they already knew what I'm learning today. I learned a little bit on our discovery call. Now I'm learning more. And what several hundred more, if not more, will learn the next few days. You have a heart of gold, and I appreciate you. Um, what last words of encouragement would you leave our viewers with today?
Build relationships that are meaningful. And the first and foremost relationship that must be meaningful is the relationship that we have, I know you will say, with God, yes, and with ourselves. And if we can do that and hold on to prioritization of what is really going to make a difference in people's lives rather than, I'll say, the rat race, if we can do that, then we've done it. We've done the thing.
I love that. Build relationships that are meaningful. Start with yourself. And I might catch some flack about this, but that's okay. You're right. I do preach on love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. That is the great commandment, and it says love your neighbor as you love yourself. So there are thousands upon tens of thousands of churches in 2026, because it's this way every year, that will have their theme for the year, love God, love others. Don't disagree. But there is a missing commandment in there, as you love yourself. We don't talk about that. And it's not putting yourself above anybody else. It's how are you going to love your neighbor? How are you going to love your coworker? How are you going to love your fellow students if you hate yourself, if you disdain yourself, if you don't think you're worthy? And by the way, because I haven't said it in a long time, you're worthy because of Jesus' sacrifice. I'm not good on my own. Paul says nobody is. Okay, I'm starting to preach a little bit. But because of the blood, we're worthy. God sent Jesus for each one of us. I'm going to reel that back in. But you're right. It does start, from my perspective, with your relationship with God and seeing yourself potentially different than what you've seen yourself all your life. And you are worthy of love, respect, and success. And your story is not over yet. If you're with us today, then God still has a purpose for your life and he's not done writing your story. You got to hear for the last 45, 50 minutes all the twists and turns and pivots that he took Jodi through. And we can all relate, right? We've all had pivots. It just means he's getting us more aligned with each pivot to what he ultimately wants us doing. He's weaving all those experiences together. That driving that big truck with those two guys that were laughing at me when I didn't know where I was going, it was all creating a framework for service later on. Anyway, back to you, Jodi. This has been awesome. I'm so grateful that you've been our guest. I'm excited to hear about the new framework and how it goes. I hope you'll stay in touch. And thank you again for being our wonderful guest today.
Thank you, Steve.
Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget that the interview with Jodi will be up for the next 30 days inside the group. But you don't have to fear because you can go over to our YouTube channel where all our interviews are housed, and you can go see the interview with Jodi anytime you want. Now, hers isn't up there yet. It will be in a few hours. But you can go watch hers anytime you want or anybody else's. And please like and subscribe. We want to grow that channel so we can continue to give you great content. And the great thing about having it on YouTube, besides they're all in one central location, I can go back anytime I want and say, hey, if you missed the interview with Jodi 45 days ago, bam, here's the link. And there you have access to it again inside the network. I appreciate each one of you. If you're in the throes of the ice and snowstorm, stay safe, stay warm, make good decisions out there on the road. Don't go out unless you have to. God bless. Until next time, we'll talk to you.